I want that bike. කොම්මෙ මහකු බප්පා ට්‍රස්ට් කුරේ චූස් කොල්ලොම් එබ්බෑ ෆහරු වර බේරුම් ස්පෙන්ඩ් කොල්ලොම් එකමකු නුකුරම්
Därför engelta, et se foderni vagutudigen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama fenu iru tea only a bike. Akam miharu tea mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rufiya at a time. කොම්මෙ මහකු බප්පා ට්‍රස්ට් කුරේ චූස් කොල්ලු එබ්බෑෆහරු වර බේරුම් ස්පෙන්ඩ් කොල්ලු එකමකු නුකුරම්
Därför är det ett så få där ni var gott och degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. කොම්මෙ මහකු බප්පා ට්‍රස්ට් කුරේ චූස් කොල්ලු එබ්බෑෆහරු වර බේරුම් ස්පෙන්ඩ් කොල්ලු එකමකු නුකුරම්
Därför är det ett så få där ni var gott och degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama fanu iru tea only a bike. Akam miharu tea mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rufiya at a time.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, distinguished guests, keynote speakers, panelists, and participants. Welcome back to the 4th International Conference on Technology, Humanities, and Management 2026. Yesterday was a truly inspiring day, and today promises to be equally rich with knowledge, insight, and meaningful dialogue. Let us continue to learn, collaborate, and innovate together.
The opening session for Day 2 will now begin. To open this morning's proceedings, it is my pleasure to invite Dr. Noor Hidayah Yahya, Senior Lecturer at University Technology, Mara, Malaysia, to deliver the welcome speech for Day 2. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Noor Hidayah Yahya.
Thank you, lovely Miss MC. Okay. I know you all lovely as well. So am I. So we are in the lovely island. Okay, so let's start our second day. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning, everyone. Distinguished guests, keynote speakers, esteemed scholars, researchers, practitioners, partners, ladies and gentlemen. So I am Dr. Noor Hidayah Yahya. I am a fellow and a senior lecturer in Accounting Research Institute, University Technology Mara, Malaysia. So Accounting Research Institute, so we call it ARI. So the short form it. So University Technology Mara, we call it UITM. So in Malaysia, we can call UITM and other universities, because UITM itself, we have 200,000 students. So we are quite big. So it is my great honor to speak today on behalf of my department, ARI, and also being a co-organizer. ARI is being the co-organizer of ICTHM 2026, and on behalf of my director, Professor Dr. Zuraidah Muhammad Sanusi. So Professor Zuraidah sincerely regrets she is unable to be with us at this conference because she is performing her Hajj. So that's why the junior is coming to representative her. Nevertheless, she sends her warmest greetings, heartfelt regards, and best wishes to everyone here today. And I would like to also convey special regards from Professor Dr. Jamalia Said, who unfortunately couldn't come to join us this time around because she was here last year, because she has another official trip to Bulgaria within this week. So she is meeting Prof. Alif later. So that's why she couldn't make it this time around to Maldives. So she sends her warm regards as well and best wishes to all. So on behalf of Prof. Zuraidah, Prof. Jamalia, and also Accounting Research Institute UITM, so I would like to respectfully acknowledge and salute the Rector of Zikra International College, Mr. Ahmad Nafis, the Honorable Mayor of Formula, Mr. Ismail Rafiq, distinguished leaders, organizers, and also the guests present today. So when we speak about direct relationships, so research, hypothesis, direct relationships. So when we speak about direct relationship between ARI, Accounting Research Institute, and Zikurab, so we have our Dr. Fatimah Rashid. She is our alumni. Oh, okay, sorry. You are here. I'm looking for you at the back. So she is our alumni. And inshallah, our doctor to be, Fatimah Sharufa, my dear PhD student, inshallah, doctor within this year. And we also have MOU with Zikura as well. So this reflects our shared commitment to academics, collaborations, research mobility, and also future joint initiatives, inshallah. However, beyond these direct relationships, we have indirect relationship. So we feel a wider and very special connection from the mayor, the rector, the Zikura community, and actually the whole island. If like there's a neighbor within the island, we really feel close. We really feel near and close. And this is the relationship. It's not only between institution, but also hearts, communities, and also friends, inshallah. So we would like to thank Zikra International College and the organizing committee and all parties who involved in making ICTHM 2026 a success. So I still remember our meetings way back months ago with Prof. Alif, with Fatima, all the organizing committee. You are very committed, very dedicated. So I think our rector, your rector will be so proud of you with the success of the ICTHM. So you can ask for your raise, salary raise. All right, so the theme of this conference, Innovating for Impact, Integrating Knowledge, People, and also Technology for a Sustainable Future, is indeed a timely and meaningful, and it reminds us that innovation is not only about technology, it's also about knowledge, it's also about value, it's also about collaboration, it's also about the impact we create for the society. It's not just for now, but for the future generation as well. So as one of the co-organizers, so we, the Accounting Research Institute, UITM, are honored to be part of this important international platform. So it is our hope that this conference will not only be the platform for academic discussion, but also the bridge for long-term partnership. We are talking about sustainability, ESG, so we are moving towards that, hopefully, inshallah. So joint research, publications, mobility programs, and stronger institutional ties between Malaysia, Maldives, and beyond. So I think like Prof. Alif, you have lots of invitation. People want to go to Turkey and do conference over there and invite you as a keynote. So we have that relationship, Alhamdulillah, with having this platform. So on behalf of Accounting Research Institute, UITM, again, I will congratulate the organizing committee, keynote speakers, presenters, sponsors, co-hosts, co-organizers, and all participants for your valuable contributions. So to Zikra College and the organizing team, thank you for having us here and welcoming us with such kindness and generosity, and we truly feel like at home. Dr. Fatima Rashid, I still remember you said that if you eat the head fish, you will surely come back again. So I'm looking forward for that. So for now, I haven't eaten any head fish because all the fish are being cut into chunks. So later I need to find the head fish for me to eat. So later to come here again, then in the near future. So hopefully this is a beautiful sign for our friendships, our collaborations to continue for many visits to come. So may this conference inspire new ideas, strengthen friendships, and open new opportunities for meaningful collaborations. With that, thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Noor Hidayah Yahya, for your warm and encouraging words. We are grateful for your presence and your contribution to this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now proceed to the first keynote address of the day. I'm pleased to introduce Associate Professor Dr. Nurziatan Ismail Khan, Head of Postgraduate Studies at University Technology Mara, Malaysia. Dr. Nurziatan Ismail Khan is Head of the Postgraduate Office at the Faculty of Accountancy, University Technology Mara, UITM, Malaysia. With over 2 decades of service to the institution and professional memberships with CPA Australia and the Malaysian Institute of Accountants. She holds a PhD in Audit and Governance from the University of Malaya, and her research interests include forensic accounting, governance, procurement fraud, and education for indigenous school pupils. In addition to her leadership role, she supervises doctoral and master's candidates, publishes actively, and provides consultancy services in management and public sector accounting. Dr. Nurziatan Ismail Khan's keynote is titled, Guarding the Gate, law firms facilitation, and dirty money risks. Please join me in welcoming Associate Professor Dr. Nurziatun Ismail Khan.
Okay, thank you, Ms. MC. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. A very good morning, all right, to our distinguished guests, also again, our respected keynote speakers, as well as the participants, yeah. So thank you, Zikura, thank you, Dr. Fatima, all right, for inviting me as the keynote for today. For today's session is going to be, or my session is going to be a little bit different from the AI. I believe that we have heard a lot about AI, and it makes us frightened a little bit, yeah? At this generation that I am in, yeah? We have no choice, but Dr. Firdaus said that we have no choice, we have to follow the flow. So as of today, I will direct a little bit, all right, or sidetrack a little bit from AI, looking into the financial criminology, looking into money laundering, all right? So I hope that these insights basically will benefit a lot of you. Now, looking into the guarding the gate, I'm looking in the perspective of law firms in their facilitation, maybe for money laundering activities. All right, so first thing first, are lawyers gatekeepers or enablers, right? So when we talk about gatekeepers, their responsibilities is to make sure that they provide services, professional services, and they are the gatekeepers of the financial as well as the legal systems, yeah? But not otherwise. So let me share with you a simple case way back in 2023 in Malaysia, where a lawyer basically facilitated and was charged under the Anti-Money Laundering Act for laundering almost 6 million ringgit Malaysia, all right? So this is not a criminal syndicate, but however, this is based on his professional services that he has rendered. And of course, this is not a hidden offshore banker. However, he is the lawyer. So meaning to say that lawyers sometimes they do facilitate with their professional knowledge and services to the money launderers so that those money launderers will have good advice from them. Okay, so the question is not just what happened, but how does a trusted legal professional become part of the money laundering chain, right? So another classic case, I believe that everyone here has heard about, the 1MDB case, the most famous financial scandals in Malaysia, right? So what happened was, based on the investigation, all lawyers were investigated, legal structures were used, funds were moved through legitimate channels. Reports indicate that millions of dollars basically was passed through professional intermediaries, including the lawyers. All right, so in that sense, it says that something that we have to think about, money laundering not only happens outside the system, all right, but sometimes it also happens through the system. So meaning that we can say that, when we hire the professionals, they are good and bad, where sometimes they do assist the money launderers to give good advice, so that they can get away and not to be caught. All right. Why law firms are in the crosschair? Okay, is the question. Why law firms are targeted? And why would criminals choose law firms? So why do you think it is? All right, so something for us to think about, because firms, basically, the law firms, they are providing legitimacy. So when we talk about legitimacy, the money gets into the system to legitimate to make it legal, to make it halal in a way, right? So those money are dirty monies. So when they put it in the legitimate it to make sure that from dirty money it goes into a halal money, so-called, right? Okay, complexity, right? So when we talk about lawyers, they make sure that it hides within the system, right? So the monies will be difficult to trace. Audit trail find it difficult to map and see where does the money goes. And they will make sure that those monies will be broken up into a smaller amount so that it cannot be traced again. Now, what about confidentiality, confidential, right? So these lawyers, basically, they have to make sure that those information are not easy to be accessed. All right, so it has to be confidential, private and confidential all the time. So based on these three elements of legitimacy, complexity, and also confidentiality, that form a framework of the professional laundering triangle. All right, about the compliance gap. Okay, so when we talk about compliance gap here, all right, so we would like to see the inconsistent compliance, right? So we know that professionals, they have to comply certain governs by the Malaysian Bar. Malaysia, we call it the Malaysian Bar. So it has to be governed by the Malaysian Bar. And of course, the inconsistent compliance is not a minor administrative gap, all right? So it is a structural weakness of the bad actors to exploit. So basically, I would just like to add another layer of information where in the earlier reports, another prominent Malaysian lawyer that was charged with receiving 15 million of illicit funds, 15 million ringgit Malaysia, yeah? All right, illicit funds, which is linked to a high-profile person, high-profile figures. When we talk about high-profile, it can be from political parties, it can be those with high rank personality. All right, so this tells us something that money laundering risks are not limited to firm size. All right, when we talk about firm size, a bigger firm size, low firm size, or smaller firm size, does it have any impact? We will look into that later, right? Reputation or even status. So we can see that small and large firms can be exposed to money laundering depending on their compliance, right? Whether they are willing to comply or not. How strict are their internal controls in that sense so they can really monitor those transactions? Meaning that when a client asks for a professional service from the law firms should do all the profiling to ensure that they do not facilitate indirectly with money laundering activities, or we call it as unlawful activities, all right? Okay, so another thing that I would like to highlight here, when it comes to money laundering, I believe that maybe some of you might not aware or do not really know the definition, what are the elements or what are the stages of money laundering. So money laundering, basically, there are 3 stages. The first stage will be placement. All right, so placement meaning that they will place the money into the account. Okay, so to make it legit, to legal it, right? So all monies will be in the account. And the second part will be the layering. So when we talk about layering, what do? When they layer the accounts, they have multiple transactions, multiple accounts, multiple transactions, so that it cannot be traced, all right? And the last one will be integration. So that is where they make sure that those dirty monies will be used to purchase of assets, equipments, property, investment. That's why you see that those people who commit, or the money launderers, they have plenty of assets. Why? Because they want to make it legal, right? So there are the 3 steps of money laundering, and which part do you think that the professional or the law firms will facilitate? Any idea? That will be the layering part. All right, so when we talk about layering, you will have multiple transactions. So in that multiple transactions, it's difficult for you to trace those transactions and get back to the money that you have laundered. All right, so that is about money laundering. All right, now, I see that those faces are, a bit in the morning. Why are we talking about money laundering? Yeah, Fatima, why are we talking about money laundering in the morning? It's such a serious case. It happens everywhere, all right? In Malaysia, any parts of the world, if you see that a lot of people, they want to get rich faster. So this is one of the ways of getting rich, money laundering. All right, so next, the question is, are the lawyers actively preventing financial crime, or are they facilitating it? Do they facilitate basically with directly or indirectly? All right, so it's a situation that if, let's say, a client comes to you, yeah, financially strong, well-connected, and referred by someone perhaps, all right, so they request a transaction. Nothing unusual on the surface, yeah, everything looks okay, but you as the lawyer, what should you do? All right, so preventive measures, yeah? So do you ask them aggressively any questions related, yeah? From where do you get the money from? What are the sources and all that? Or you might be thinking of losing the client. That will be another part. Or you proceed with a caution but limited verification, all right? It's just okay, then after that, tick the box, everything fine, let's do it. Okay, so there's many professional struggles in that sense where they are stuck in between being ethical or greed. Money laundering is all about greed, yeah? So because anti-money laundering compliance is not just technical, it is behavioral, meaning that it's an individual, okay? Whether you want to uphold good integrity, being ethical or otherwise. Being an academician, I could not run away from theories, right? So in life, in our lectures, theory is important. So I would just like to relate a little bit about routine activity theory with the research. Now, when we talk about routine activity theory, basically this theory mentioned about crimes does not happen randomly, right? So it happens when opportunity exists and nobody stops it. That's it, all right? So it happens. So in this particular theory, it mentioned that when a motivated client meets with the professionals, yeah, in the absence of strong control, there is no internal control, money laundering becomes possible. So it happens by using this particular theory, money laundering is possible if there is no effective controls. And sometimes these professionals, they are not aware of it, all right? So therefore, they start to facilitate those money launderers without realizing it. All right, so just to share a little bit about the key findings of my research on this particular paper, all right, so there are three things that I would like to share in general, talking about the size of the firm, right? So we will always mention that, is it the size of the firm have any impact on money laundering facilitation? Big or small law firms basically will provide those services, but it depends, all right? So as we know that larger firms usually, they have bigger resources. They have good anti-money laundering system, they have conducted good profiling, all right, to ensure that when you do profiling, you look into the background of the client, know your customer, care, due diligence, customer due diligence and all that. So it will be done by a big organizations, yeah? Meaning that the law firms, if it is large, they are able to do that. However, for the small firms, basically they are unable to do that. They do not have enough resources, all right? So most of the time, they will be the one who will indirectly facilitating those money launderers, right? Because they do not have the system of profiling, they do not have enough resources in terms of lawyers to look into it into detail, and on top of that, because they are small. So they have no choice but to assist, right? Otherwise, they cannot sustain. We're talking about sustainability, okay, in the future. All right, so next, will be high-risk services. So these are the services, basically, we can call it as red flags, right? So if the transactions are mostly involved in real estate transactions or financial transactions or even company secretarial, so you will see that these transactions actually give some red flags saying that something is not right here, all right? So the professionals should at least look at this. Okay, so based on our research, the services rendered by the professionals, by the lawyers, basically plays an important role in detecting is there any elements of money laundering happen in that particular transactions. Yeah. So when you look here, basically the real estate transactions, financial transactions, and also the company secretarial, these will be at the layering part. You remember we have the 3 stages. First will be placement, layering, and also integration. All right? Okay, so far, so good. All right, next. So is there any relationship? Yes, of course. All right, so the more sophisticated AI is, the more difficult for the people to detect whether is there any elements of money laundering or not. Okay, we mentioned about AI yesterday, how easy it is being used for those who are expert, but not people like me. So we don't do money laundering activities because we are not good. Okay, so how should I go about that? Hire people that is good to help me, right? So that's how it is. So you see that most of these cases involve millions of monies. Basically, they have professional people to advise them. That includes the 1MDB scandal, right? So the mapping of those monies by the billions just wasted. So again, it reflects the taxpayers' money that being abused or mismanaged. Yeah. All right. Next, we look at the third key findings of client profile. Right. So client profile plays an important role, especially those with politically exposed persons. Right? So high-profile cases usually referring to those political figures, the ministers, whatsoever, that with a good personality together with good position. Now, so when we talk about profile cases here, that will be public office connections, foreign clients, yeah? You have to look into cross-border transactions as well as the high net worth individuals. Yeah? So these basically, all these 3 elements has in 1MDB scandal. All this, right? So meaning that it has the political exposed persons is in there, the foreign client as well as high net worth individual. So basically when we talk about high-risk clients, these are the ones that the professionals need to do profiling, to look into their background, to see whether they are any transactions that might involve money laundering transactions, right? Okay. Regulatory role, all right? So when we talk about regulatory, in Malaysia, we have Bank Negara Malaysia, that is Central Bank of Malaysia, right? And we also have the Malaysian Bar for the lawyers. So what are their roles? Basically, when you talk about Bank Negara, is the main watchdog for the financial services, right? So they are the main watchdog, and for the Malaysian Bar, basically they governs the law firms as well as the lawyers. All right. So from here, actually, we have the regulatory role of the for the transactions lah. All right. So sometimes it is about good professionals. Okay. When we talk about money laundering, we might say that it's not always about bad people. All right. Sometimes it do happens from good professionals and also, however, in a weak operating system, like weak internal control. Yeah, so that makes actually money laundering happens, and the role of these institutions basically are important, and it is challenging now as we know that AI. In our era, AI is very sophisticated, so they have to ensure that those transactions are complex transactions so that it cannot be traced. Yeah. So what needs to change? All right. So what are we supposed to do when we are involved with this money laundering, exposed to it? Right. We are not directly involved, but we are exposing to it almost every day. So what must change, basically? All right. So when we look here, it's about risk-based framework. So when we talk about risk-based, we cannot use one size fits all. All right, so the higher the risk is, the more should be the control, right? So internal control plays an important part here. All right, stronger support for the firm, small firm. You know that sophisticated money launderings cannot be curbed by these small firms. So it has to be supported by the regulatory rules just now, right? So what is the most important thing here is the mindset. The mindset of saying compliance is someone else's responsibility, but not ours. All right, so we have to play our role as regulators maybe, or as practitioners, right, to ensure that we can somehow curb it, even though it is indirectly. All right, so for the conclusion, okay, we can basically enforce compliance to ensure that those policymakers, ensure that those professionals, they abide with those regulations and whatnot. But however, we cannot enforce integrity. So however it is, it comes back to individuals of having good ethical standards and also being ethical with high integrity. So when a lawyer basically chooses one more question, okay, to be asked, or verify one more detail of the client, or challenge any suspicious transactions, that is where real anti-money laundering protection begins. Yeah. So in that sense, we will see that ethics plus compliance equals to integrity. Okay. All right. So with that, okay. So just my closing remark. As we know that law firms actually are not just legal advisors, yeah? They are guardians of trust. So, and in today's environment, the trust must extend beyond clients. That is integrity in the financial system. So I shall leave you with this, something for us to think about, that in a fight against money laundering, the most important control is not regulation, however it is awareness. All right, to me, awareness is important. Sometimes we might not involve directly in money laundering or any unlawful activities, but we might involve indirectly. So therefore, awareness plays an important role in our lives so that we do not indulge ourselves in such activities. With that, I end my presentation. Thank you.
The issues you have raised are critical for governance and accountability in today's world. We will now move to our second keynote address of the day. I am honored to introduce Ms. Mariam Fizana Rashid. Ms. Mariam Fizana Rashid is the Chief Executive Officer of the Maldives Qualification Authority, MQA, the national body responsible for regulating and assuring the quality of post-secondary qualifications under the Maldives National Qualification Framework. With extensive experience in higher education, leadership, including roles as State Minister of the Ministry of Higher Education, Dean at the Maldives National University, and Director General of MQA, she has been a driving force in strengthening quality assurance and regulatory process in the Maldives higher education sector. She holds a master's degree from the Open University of Malaysia and is currently completing her PhD. Her keynote is titled, "Cognitive Cost of Convenience, Is AI Gradually Replacing Human Intelligence?" Please welcome Ms. Mariam Fizana Rashid.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi sidine ilman warzuqni fahma. Alamange hittan alikurebi rabbuge beri Allahang hamdu kurang. Adi Muhammad Gafana ekalek fan ala sabuna salawata salam lebung adi dua kurang. Honorable Chief Guest, Anisa Ahmad, respected Chairman of Zikura College, Honorable Muhammad Wahid, Rector Mr. Ahmad Nafis, Mayor of Formula, Ms. Mr. Ismail Rafiq, honorable delegates, invitees, and participants, Assalamu alaikum, and a very good morning. I'm honored to be invited as a speaker at ICTSM. Forget about AI. Last Saturday, I was in a blackout. With my work schedule, with the busy work schedule, I postponed writing my speech to Saturday. My flight was at Saturday night. I went to the office to do my write my speech around 11 a.m. And unfortunately, there was no current. The current went off. I was in a blackout. Half of my speech was written, but then when the current went off, I lost everything. I was in the 5th floor. I couldn't get down. So I waited until the current came. It didn't. For a few minutes, I had hope, but again it went off. So I had to wait for a few hours, and I climbed down 5th floor. It was not easy. Anyways, can you imagine living without internet? Can you imagine living without the current? No, you will be blank. You won't know what to do. Yeah. I will start with a few questions. How many screens do you have? 1, 2, 3, TV, computer, and your mobiles, right? How dependent are you on the screens 24/7? Can you imagine living without your phone? How many of you have spent more than an hour without your mobiles? Yes? You have? Good to know. Of course, apart from your nap time. Apart from your nap time, definitely. None or some, few? Have you thought you need to detox yourself from screens? Have you thought about it? Well, I have thought about it. I once had to attend a workshop without my mobile, strictly prohibited. And for 3 hours, I felt something was missing. I felt empty. I had this urge to look at my phone and felt conscious, unable to concentrate. I realized I need to detox myself from my phone. Till today, with work commitments, no such luck. I'm sure you all are in the same boat. We have become preoccupied with the AI world. We live in the AI world. We eat in the AI world. We breathe in the AI world. We are inside an AI world. We live in an AI world as slaves. Well, with the introduction of internet services in 1996, the number of internet users in the Maldives increased rapidly, resulting in the highest internet penetration in South Asia. In 2018, the International Telecommunication Reunion reported that 54.46% of the population had access to the internet. Today, I believe it is 100%. We are all accessible. With every island and almost all the households in the nation having internet access, and the continued increase in mobile cellular subscriptions, almost all the schools in the island nation have a computer lab. Almost all the students, individual students, have a mobile. Today, almost all the major higher education institutions, HEIs, have established LMS systems and proctoring mechanisms to conduct online programs. The Maldives Codifications Authority's 2021 publication of e-learning guidelines has enabled HEIs to offer accredited online programs. The internet boom and COVID has led the higher education institutions to adapt how they reach out to the islands. Since the new accreditation guideline was published in 2022, more than 470 programs from various HEIs have been accredited by MQA, out of which 90% of the programs are offered online and exams conducted via online too. With AI, assignments are at our students' fingertips. Anyone can do an assignment of 20,000 words within minutes, and it can be humanized too. The question for educators is how to trace AI-generated assignments and ensure that students do not have access to another screen during their exams. And for the lecturers, are you using AI to develop the lesson plans or presentations or mark their assignments? Are your emails and text messages generated from ChatGPT? How reliable is ChatGPT's information? Have you thought about it? Will it replace the citations and reference lists that we have to do in the research? How will the lecturer identify whether the sources is authentic? How will the lecturers identify if the work is the student's work? All exams are online, sometimes resulting in all the students getting HDs, concerning for me. However, when they go to job interviews, some are unable to speak fluently, nor are they able to perform in their jobs. A complaint I get from the employers. My worry as an educator starts here. Is the frequent use of AI gradually decreasing our intellectual abilities? According to studies, the interaction between AI and human intelligence presents both remarkable opportunities and substantial challenges, and embodying a complex relationship that can either enhance or undermine cognitive abilities. I'm an old school person. I don't favor AI. I am not a tech person either. But I know that we have to go with the flow. We have to embrace AI. AI has advanced several fields by enabling sophisticated problem solving, automating routine tasks, and providing highly personalized learning environments. But would you want your doctor to prescribe your prescription, doctor's medical prescription, using an AI-generated, using ChatGPT or using an AI-generated one? I don't think so. However, these advancements are accompanied by significant cognitive risks, particularly a decline in essential cognitive skills due to increased reliance on AI. According to researchers, one phenomenon, cognitive offloading, characterized by individuals delegating cognitive responsibilities such as memory and problem solving to AI systems, presents a major concern. While offloading provides efficiency, it risks cognitive atrophy in abilities such as spatial navigation, memory retention, and critical thinking, potentially diminishing human independence in these domains. Over-reliance on AI, are we? Similarly, researchers believe skill degradation, a prominent risk associated with extensive AI integration, can weaken human expertise and diminish essential cognitive and professional competencies. That's what we are seeing today. This phenomenon particularly affects soft skills, including empathy and moral reasoning, which are critical in fields such as healthcare, education, and leadership. In addition, automated decision-making processes and inadvertently promote passive engagement, in which individuals rely on AI generation decisions, limiting their capacity for critical evaluation. Think about it. Our decision makers relying on AI. The debate had increased over the years. According to many researchers, K-12 and higher education students are the most vulnerable, as developing foundation literacy, critical thinking, and analytical writing skill is paramount during these years. Over-reliance on AI for assignments could severely hamper the development of these core competencies. Hence, educational institutions face a critical challenge: how to leverage AI as a learning tool without undermining fundamental skill acquisition. Therefore, pedagogical approaches must evolve rapidly to teach with AI, focusing on the critical evaluation of AI output, the ethical use of AI, and the preservation of space for unaided cognitive effort. Where are we as educators in the Maldives? The next at risk are the young professionals at work. Junior professionals might miss out the learning that comes from drafting reports, manually analyzing data, or crafting persuasive arguments from scratch. Experiences crucial to developing expertise and judgment. The focus must be on using AI to handle routine tasks, freeing up time for higher order strategic thinking, complex problem solving, and relationship building. However, even my staff use AI to generate their text emails, and then I have to again change it. And then come the experienced professionals and the leaders. While AI can be a powerful tool for synthesizing information, exploring scenarios, and accelerating strategic decision making, the risk here is less about the loss of foundation skills and more about potential overconfidence in AI outputs or a failure to maintain deep domain expertise through continuous learning and critical engagement. And then comes the general population, especially the older generation, often misled by AI-generated content that looks very real. As we continue to integrate AI into our lives, addressing these challenges requires strategic and proactive interventions. I believe it is essential to develop strategies that promote a synergistic relationship between humans and AI, ensuring that technology serves as a tool for cognitive enhancement rather than a crutch that leads to intellectual decline. AI systems such as LMS should be deliberately designed to encourage active human engagement, promoting cognitive stimulation rather than mere convenience. HEIs, for example, could integrate AI tools in ways that foster active collaboration, problem solving, rather than passive information retrieval. The way of giving exams must be changed. Transparency and interpretability of AI systems must be prioritized, allowing users to critically assess and understand AI-driven decisions, thereby preserving and even strengthening human judgment. Educators need to cultivate mindful AI use by emphasizing uniquely human cognitive skills such as creativity, emotional intelligence, ethical reasoning, and complex problem solving, which we do not see in today's world. Prioritize critical thinking and AI literacy to deliberately engage students in challenging reading practice with writing from scratch and grapple with complex problems without the immediate AI assistance, at least from K to 12 students. Just as physical exercise builds muscle, cognitive efforts build mental resilience and capacity. HEIs are to establish clear guidelines For the ethical and effective use of AI, policymakers and technology developers should collaborate to establish clear, robust, and ethical frameworks and guidelines that protect privacy, promote fairness, and ensure that AI enhances rather than diminishes human cognitive faculties. Then the question you will raise to me is, why isn't MQA having a guideline? Right? The thing is, the institutions should take the lead to have their own mechanisms, their own principles, their own guidelines as well. Because 70% or 90% of your programs are online, and I don't believe that you can run a program without having proper guidelines, right? So if we are to strictly have a guideline, we will be very strict. I will be very firm on that. So you wouldn't be able to have leniency on this and that. See, as you know, I'm very strict on rules and regulations, so I have left it to the HCIs. But then it doesn't mean that we won't be monitoring and we won't be checking on it. Through such balanced and proactive measures, society can leverage AI's full potential while safeguarding human intelligence and agencies. Educators need to consider how to use AI effectively and efficiently with our already tech-friendly generation. The education sector and its stakeholders need to be alert and seek ways to overcome the challenges and setbacks posed by the introduction of AI, because there is no going back. We cannot afford to have a generation that lacks intellectual and emotional abilities. We can't. AI has the potential to both limit and enhance human intelligence. The key to maximize AI's benefits while minimizing its drawbacks lies in striking a balance between leveraging AI's capabilities and preserving the cognitive faculties that are central to human intelligence. The future cognitive landscape isn't predetermined. It will be shaped by how we choose to integrate and interact with generative AIs. We must move forward with the intention, adopting strategies that harness AI power while safeguarding our cognitive vitality as well. With the simple note, I conclude, thanking Zikra College officials for the opportunity to learn. The future of our generation lies in our hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mariam Fizana Rashid, for that timely and thought-provoking keynote. The questions you have raised about AI and human intelligence are central to our collective future. Ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed to our third keynote address. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Muhammad Faisal, former Secretary General of the National Pay Commission, Maldives. Dr. Muhammad Faisal holds a PhD in Public Policy from Victoria University of Wellington and served as Secretary General of the National Pay Commission of the Maldives, where he was spearheading the formulation of a landmark harmonized pay framework for the entire public service. His expertise spans civil service reform, performance management, and strategic decision-making in public organizations. His career reflects a deep commitment to advancing governance and public administration reform in the Maldives. Dr. Faisal's keynote is titled, Towards a Public Service Pay Framework for Sustainable Impact, Integrating Policy Knowledge, Human Capital, and Systematic Reform in the Maldives. Please welcome Dr. Muhammad Faisal.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, scholars, researchers, and practitioners, Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank Zikra International College for inviting me for this prestigious conference. Today, we are gathered here in this incredibly unique, geographically blessed island to discuss a transition that is as much a social experiment as it is a fiscal policy. My topic for the today is towards the public service pay framework for sustainable impact, integrating policy knowledge, human capital, and systematic reform in the Maldives. Public sector reform in the Maldives in different forms have been constant in Maldives for several decades. Since the turn of the century, one of the major public sector reforms had been the establishment of an independent civil service. Concurrent reforms did establish numerous additional statutory institutions as well. Such a major deviation from a centralized model, along with the legal jurisdictions vested within those institutions, inadvertently created a vicious cycle where each institution continuously and incrementally increased pay rates in competition with each other. The spiraling fiscal cost, along with the discontent among the public servants regarding public sector pay, led to the inception of a concerted effort to streamline and harmonize public sector pay in 2016. This reform initiative, led by the National Pay Commission to formulate and institutionalize a public sector pay framework across the entire public service, has so far been rolled to over 93% of the public service. But the challenges the Maldives is facing with these reforms appears critical in terms of long-term fiscal sustainability and institutional impact. My presentation will be divided into four main parts. After this introduction, I'll briefly touch on the history of public administration in the Maldives. That will be followed by an overview of the constitutional reform and statutory institution building over the last few decades. Then I'll highlight the reasons why we moved from a codification-based system towards a job size model. Before concluding, I will discuss some of the main challenges faced in the institutionalization of the public service pay framework in the Maldives. Before we talk about the public service pay framework, it is perhaps important to give an overview of how we as a nation got to this point. The basic design of the national administrative system in the Maldives was more or less a unique local product that evolved mostly out of tradition and cultural practices. In this regard, the public personal administration in the Maldives was characterized by personalistic and patronage-driven. Little emphasis was made on motivation and human resource development. And it was compounded by diffused and uncoordinated administrative practices. In the absence of a systematic reform agenda, the administrative culture was highly centralized. Centralization arguably brought substantial benefits that included uniform budgetary processes and expenditure in the form of standardization and redistribution of government revenue to all parts of the nation, irrespective of the level of economic activities. But this centralization resulted in a stream of unsystematic decisions regarding recruitment, promotion, transfer, personnel policies, performance evaluation, and occupational classifications. Even by the start of the 1980s, there were 100 different pay scales with too much overlapping and marginal differences, at times gaps of only a couple of rupiah between pay scales. In the absence of any cohesiveness, those pay scales were arguably superimposed on the classification grades as a matter of convenience, reflecting the arbitrary nature of the entire personnel management mechanism. Therefore, there was a need to create uniformity and standardization. Due to multiplicity of pay scales, disjointed service structures, and the wide range of exceptions in appointments, promotions, and transfers. Concerted efforts to address those problems started in the early 1980s. The first institution mandated for those reforms was the National Office of Personnel and Administration Reform, NOPA. Structured job classification and pay structure was introduced during that time. Further modernization followed over the next decades with the establishment of the Public Service Division in 1999. However, by the end of 2007, the job classification and designation appeared to have disintegrated to the extent that inadequacies of the classification system had given rise to many exceptions, leading to misuse and unequal application. Jobs were created and filled on an ad hoc basis without proper job analysis. Transfers between government agencies were very frequent, as individuals sought better remunerated positions. Reform of civil service was thus considered one of the key pillars of the constitutional reforms that was initiated during that time. One of the constitutional reform was the establishment of the Civil Service Commission, Independent Civil Service Commission in 2007. It was a constitutional body, and the removal of civil service management from the President's office was considered a tremendously important step towards the creation of a transparent and accountable personnel management system. The newly established Civil Service Commission was mandated with the classification, grading, and remuneration of civil servants. But along with an independent civil service, numerous other statutory institutions were also established. Each such institution had a large degree of operational autonomy, including setting its own pay scales. Government also had the statutory powers to corporatize government organizations as it saw fit, a provision that was frequently used in the years that followed the new constitution. That gave rise to numerous quasi-corporations with the power to manage their own employees, including setting their pay. That meant that the number of civil servants covered by the central civil service pay and personnel machinery correspondingly shrank. Apparently, a widely held belief was that one of the primary reasons for such changes was that by moving out of the civil service, such corporations would have the leverage to maneuver their pay scales as they see fit. Democratic reform that established those statutory bodies, along with the corporatization of government organizations, led to the fragmentation of the state sector. Significant differences started to emerge among those institutions. Although the civil service remained the single biggest employer in the state sector, other organizations in most cases set their staff salaries relatively higher than the civil service salaries. Over the years, the problem kept compounding to the extent that job hopping for higher salaries became embedded. Institutions entered into a bidding war for the best talent by continuously tweaking their pay packages. This created what is referred to as grade inflation and failed to incentivize performance. The end result was an uncontrolled rise in the government wage budget. Such increase in the wage budget meant that the need to regulate wages was becoming a necessity. The remedy for the growing inequalities in remuneration was addressed by the enactment of the National Pay Policy Act in 2016. The National Pay Commission was mandated with this improbable task. The public service pay frameworks formulated by the Pay Commission was intended to harmonize pay across the public service organizations by moving from a purely qualification-based model to the job size model, which weighs each job based on the profession. Compensation is a critical area of human resources and one that can significantly affect employee behavior. It must be competitive in the market, accurately based, motivating, and easy to understand, and perceived by employees as fair. To meet this requirement requires a robust and consistent methodology. The National Pay Commission developed a meticulous methodology for its pay framework with 5 main steps: job analysis, job evaluation, pay policy identification, pay survey analysis, and pay structure creation. The outcome of these steps was the formulation of 4 key sets of documents. The first was the Maldives Public Service Standard Classification Occupation, MISCO, which was similar to the occupational classification developed by ILO, but was customized to the Maldivian context. The second document was the Job Evaluation Guidelines, which was used to quantifiably evaluate each job fairly and equitably. It was a critical process because it provided the basis for a fair pay and unified ranking and grading structure. During the evaluation process, jobs were measured by using 4 main factors: skills and knowledge, responsibility, physical effort, and environmental working conditions. The third primary document was the Maldives Job Family Model, which was basically a grouping of occupations and professions that had common traits in their roles: knowledge, skills, competencies that was required to undertake the tasks. This aggregation resulted in 9 job families: business and administrative service, health service, information and communication technology service, legal, cultural, and social service, science and built environment service, educational service, elementary and skilled service, armed forces and police service, and protective service. To ensure the entire process leads to fair compensation, the weightage allocated to these job families varied during the job evaluation process mentioned earlier. The fourth key set of documents are the distinct job metrics for each profession. Each job family comprises of numerous job matrices. In order to provide a greater understanding and enhanced visibility of career paths for staff at all levels, including professional and managerial levels, a job matrix provides all relevant information to the current and prospective employees as well. For instance, positions specified in the biomedical engineer's job matrix consist of assistant biomedical engineer, senior biomedical engineer, and chief biomedical engineer. For each position, the core duties and responsibilities, the level of skills, experience, and education required, and the salary and benefits are specified. It was recently reported that compensation for over 93% of the public service have been set based on the newly developed pay framework. Effective implementation based on technical rationality was intended to bring an end to the pay discrepancies and achieve fiscal wage equilibrium. However, significant obstacles lies ahead to truly achieve the goals set out in the National Pay Policy Act. Although there are several noticeable challenges due to the time constraints, I will briefly point out 6 of them that needs to be addressed for these reforms to be considered a success. These are not mutually exclusive, and they are interrelated and overlap each other. Number 1, fiscal strain and recurrent expenditure spikes. Standardizing and harmonizing salaries across the entire public service is estimated to drive up the current state spending significantly. For the current year, state wage bills will amount to over 17 billion of the national budget, which accounts to almost half of the government revenue. Simultaneously, continuous adjustments could add billions more to the national budget. And in the absence of strict fiscal discipline, the current expenditure is expected to increase significantly in the short to medium term. Number two, electoral cycles and political wage cycles. In the Maldives, public sector employees and their families constitute a massive segment of the voting demographic, giving them outsized political leverage. Even since the 1990s, successive administrations have faced immense political pressure to announce sweeping wage hikes or introduce specialized allowances right before the election to secure bloc votes. And in today's multi-party political system, such political pledges have become a norm. Successive governments continue on this path, and the unsustainable remuneration adjustments demonstrate an indefinite continuity, irrespective of the political party in power. Number three, resistance from powerful institutional enclaves. As mentioned previously, the current constitution established numerous independent institutions. A standardized pay framework strips away the financial autonomy to determine pay from those institutions, thus creating intense horizontal friction. Powerful state enclaves, such as the judiciary, security forces, and independent oversight institutions, frequently resist top-down standardization by the executive-backed National Pay Commission. These bodies often view mandatory wage ceilings as an infringement on their constitutional and statutory autonomy and separation of powers. In addition to such institutions, there are influential professional lobby groups who are highly organized and politically influential, such as the Teachers Association and the Health Professionals Association. The fact that those sectors have had preferential treatments for wage increases in the past decades is a testament to their influence. This leaves politically weaker administrative civil servants behind, weakening the political consensus needed for a unified pay framework. Number four, standardized labor doctrines and individual grievances. The harmonized pay framework formulated by the National Pay Commission required standardized labor doctrines across all institutions. Such doctrines defines the foundational, established principles, frameworks, and authoritative rules that dictates the relationship between the employer and the employee. To give an example, transitioning to a standardized pay framework has sparked technical disputes regarding overtime structures and salary calculations. This is primarily because, unlike the private sector, where market forces can ruthlessly eliminate inefficient structures, public administration is uniquely prone to path dependency due to political and structural mechanisms. Bureaucrats and special interest groups who benefited from the previous practices use their institutional authority to actively defend those practices. Resistance to adapt to the new labor doctrines remain prevalent. This leads to individual grievances, and the public servants rely heavily on top-down executive interventions rather than independent institutional systems to address such grievances. And so the ruling elites demonstrate a strong institutional imperative to address popular grievances, as they are keen to signal their commitment to mitigate constituent dissatisfaction. Number five, political rationality superseding technical rationality. This represents the classic tension between technical rationality, which rests on data, scientific facts, and expert logic, against political rationality, which rests on the logic of electoral survival, coalition maintenance, and patronage. While the political masters are in the forefront to address staff grievances, political rationality is increasingly dominating the discourse. This poses a number of challenges. Firstly, it creates fiscal volatility due to politically motivated wage inflation. Secondly, it poses technocratic insulation, where institutions mandated with technocratic tasks such as the National Pay Commission and the Civil Service Commission are not protected from political interference. Additionally, powerful institutions and lobbying groups also engage in rent-seeking behavior, where they demand pay increases without creating reciprocal value. The National Pay Policy Act and subsequent pay framework developed by the Pay Commission was intended to be operationalized based on technocratic design framework leading to fiscal discipline. However, there is a growing trend where the political executive is altering these dimensions because their incentives align with political survival and are thus creating a discontent where technical expertise are actively subverted by the political authority. This is contrary to the guiding principles laid out in the National Pay Policy Act. The last one, number 6, staff discontent due to realignment of bureaucratic capital. The friction caused by the pay framework stems from a structural mismatch between traditional bureaucratic values and modern managerial reforms. The framework applies a rigid scientific management approach to a workforce that previously operated under a discretionary, patronage-linked, and seniority-based system. The pay framework induces a shift from experiential capital, that is, tacit knowledge gained through tenure, to educational capital, which is explicit knowledge validated by formal education and professional experience. In public administration, this is called credentialism. It occurs when formal qualifications act as strict gatekeepers, replacing institutional memory and operational competence of long-serving officers. This is perceived as an injustice by those officers. Moody's has a history of compensating on the length of service rather than performance. Additionally, there is implicit contract where employees accept lower market salaries in exchange for long-term job security, predictable career progression, and incremental seniority-based allowances. These dimensions have been altered in the pay framework, which results in staff discontent that ultimately lead to political intervention. Such intervention, once again, is expected to be contrary to what is currently laid out in the National Pay Policy Act. So, to conclude my presentation, firstly, I would like to highlight that the legal transition from a traditional public administration system that was primarily relying on cultural traditions onto a statutory institution-based reform have not necessarily altered the underlying deficiencies that was prevalent in the work culture. They are well and truly present, although in a different guise. In the Maldives, a significant portion of the entire working population are public servants. Thus, political leaders across the political spectrum consider this as a massive segment of the voting demography. Although pay rise have often been used to sway these voters, there is no empirical evidence to support its intended impact. Rather, clientelistic compensation policies driven by the electoral business cycle institutionalize unsustainable expenditure rigidities, accelerating the path towards systematic fiscal insolvency. Mitigating the structural fragmentation induced by the 2007 constitutional reforms necessitates an empirically driven approach to public sector wage and personnel regulation. Addressing the legacy of institutional decoupling in the Maldivian public sector demands empirical policy interventions rather than ad hoc structural adjustments. However, the prevailing operational trajectories raises critical concerns regarding the intertemporal fiscal viability and structural institutional consequences of the public service pay framework. Thank you for your attention. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Muhammad Faisal, for that comprehensive and policy-rich keynote. Your insights on public service reform in the Maldives are both timely and significant. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now take a short refreshment break. Please return to the hall by 10:45 a.m. for our panel discussion.
Komme mahako Bappa trust kure choose kollam. Ebba faharu vara bearung spend kollam. Ekamaku nukuram.
Därför är det ett så få där ni var gott och degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama felu iro T only a bike. Akam miharo T mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rufiya at a time. komme mahako bappa trust kore choose kollam. Ebba faharu vara belung spend kollam. Ekamaku nukoram.
Därför hänger det ett så få där ni var gott och degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama felu iro ti only a bike. Akam miharo ti mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rufiya at a time. komme mahaku bappa trust kure choose kollam. Ebba faharu vara berung spend kollam. Ekamaku nukuram.
Därför enkelt då. Ett få där ni var gott och degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama felu iru T only a bike. Akam miharu T mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rufiya at a time. Komme mahaku bappa trust kure choose kollam. Ebba faharu vara berum spend kollam. Ekamaku nukuram.
Därför enkelt då. Ett så få där ni var gott och degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama felu iru tea only a bike. Akam miharu tea mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rufiya at a time.
Welcome back. We now move to the next item on today's agenda, the signing of the letter of intent between Zikura International College and Istanbul Medipol University, Turkey. This collaboration marks an important milestone in strengthening academic cooperation, international partnerships, and opportunities for students and faculty of both institutions. May I kindly invite Rector of Zikura International College, Mr. Ahmad Nafis, and Dr. Elif Baykal, Head of the Business Administration Department at Istanbul Medipol University, to proceed to the signing table for the official signing ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating both institutions on this significant partnership. Thank you. May we request your patience in allowing us few minutes to get the stage prepared for the next panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, we now move to our panel discussion for Day 2, themed Governance, Quality and Accountability in Innovation and Sustainability Ethics and Future-Oriented Decision Making. I now invite moderator of the panel discussion, Mr. Kiram Ahmad, lecturer at Zikura International College, to introduce the panelists and lead the session.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, and a very good morning to you all. I hope you are all not sleepy, okay? After our panel discussion, hopefully you will learn a lot. So on behalf of Zikura International College, I welcome all of you to the second day panel discussion, where we are going to be talking about governance, accountability in innovation and sustainable decision making. First of all, I would like to invite all of the panel members to the stage for the discussion. Yeah. Okay, so is the audience ready for the discussion? Yes, so let's begin. First thing is, let me give an introduction about the theme that we are going to be talking about. So our theme is going to be innovation and governance. So when we talk about innovation, I believe innovation has been talked about quite a lot in this panel discussion, in this conference. So innovation is shaping every part of our lives, whether it's education, health, business, or any other sector. But the speed at which innovation is coming is at a huge cost. Rules often struggle to keep up. The most vulnerable carry the heaviest risk, and we rarely measure whether the impact is even real. So this panel is answering one very simple question, which is how do we govern innovation so it is ethical, impactful, and accountable? Now to help us discuss this, we have three esteemed panelists joining us today, and let me give a very brief introduction for each of the panelists. So first we have Dr. Noor Hidayah Yahya, Senior Lecturer at University Technology Mara. And then we have Ustaza Taslima, who is the Commissioner of Quality Assurance at the Ministry of Health, Maldives. And then we have Dr. Abdullah Rashid, a very familiar face, I'm pretty sure, Assistant Professor at Zikura International College. So panel members, let's begin the discussion. I think we should start where every conversation about innovation should start, which is, does it actually matter, and how would we really know? So Dr. Abdullah Rashid, may I come to you first? So I will ask the foundation question here, which is, how important is innovation to an organization's long-term success? Is it simply something that is nice to have, or is it a non-negotiable now when we talk about the modern organizations?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Kiram. Very good question. As Kiram has mentioned, we are talking innovation and AI repeatedly, and the question why innovation is important for organization success. Definitely, innovation is one of the most important factor which makes organization different from other organizations. When we look at the innovation, once again, let me tell you what innovation is in little bit different perspective. What's the mother of innovation? Yeah, you can think of it. Mother of innovation is the creativity. Then the question is, what is creativity? Creativity is thinking about new ideas. So when we have just ideas on our head as creativity, it remains as new ideas. There is no impact. But when these ideas become practical, when there is an impact and value to the society, then we called it innovation. Today we are talking about innovation, why innovation is so important and successful. And there are different types of innovation when we look at innovation. For example, incremental versus disruptive innovation. Incremental innovation, there is continuously increasing, modifying what we already have. So there is continuous improvement. So that is incremental innovation, whereas disruptive innovation is a total shift and market changing, revolutionized change. So these changes really make organizations successful. That is why that is so important for organizations' success. When we look at other types of innovation, we can see product innovation, service innovation, process innovation, and even business model innovation. Business model innovation also, we can see some business, they are selling directly to customers, other business, they are selling to business. So there are different types of innovations. So the success depends on how much innovative they are. Innovation is considered as the lifeblood of the organization. Now, I think the story of Nokia is too old because too much have spoken about the Nokia. The original company of the Nokia is from Finland. So this Finnish company, Nokia, has finished, I think. So I'm not going to talk about Nokia, but you know that. What happened to Nokia, what happened to Kodak, what happened to BlackBerry, all these, same story. They are unable to innovate as the market needs. And organizations, when we talk about the success, organizations should be relevant to the market. Market is changing. There is one thing permanent. That is change. Everything else is changing. Therefore, innovation is so important. Before concluding, let me tell you, we all like newness, new things. We don't want the same thing, same dress, same color, same food. If it is even same food with a different package. So the newness is there in human nature. Therefore, organization who provides new products, new features, new services, definitely they would outstand. So that is why, Kiram, innovation is so important. Innovation is successful. Any company which wants to be successful, definitely they don't have a choice other than being innovative.
Yeah, so I think you have made it very clear why innovation is so important, right? And innovation can only be impactful if we can translate our creative ideas into real practices, as you have mentioned. But that raises a more important question here. So if innovation is so important for an organization, how do we know whether it is actually making that impact? Now, Dr. Noor Hidayah, you come from a research background, right? So how do we measure the impact of innovation? When we talk about the results, the most important results take years to actually appear. Any thoughts?
Thank you, Mr. Okay, I like somehow I thought like you are Hatim, I thought you are Kiram. So now, okay, because we just met online, so now, okay, when we first met yesterday, so okay, looks like a superstar. All right, young and handsome. Okay, so I'm so motivated to be one of the speakers, to be moderated by you. I am married. Okay, I am married. I have 5 children, so it's just like.
Unfortunately, I'm married as well.
Okay, coming back to this innovation. So how does we really can measure the impact? So I believe this innovation should not be measured through immediate financial return. So as we can see previous sharing, So actually not financial statement, financial data, financial ratio, it can be deceiving. So I'm from accounting background somehow or other. So yeah, it is historical. So how can we really measure this impact if just based on this financial return? So this meaningful innovation will take time somehow or other. So innovation for me start with a simple idea. I want to do something new, and then I will do some R&D. So academic will do all the research. We'll do the prototype, and somehow later the outcome will come up with a system or a solution to overcome any challenges or any issues that occurred at the first place. So in the past, so basically most organizations' success being measured through profit. We are way beyond profit because thanks to COVID, we are not mainly, truly, solely based on profit. Because during COVID, yes, many organizations have lots of profits, but do they sustain? So that's why I said thanks to COVID, so we learn. So we learn how to be sustained, how to be agile, how to adapt. Who will ever think there will be COVID? Who will ever think there will be a war? So how the business will adapt? So talking about this innovation, so it is shifted rather than just financial ratio, financial statement into a broader value creation. So it's what we talk about sustainability, we talk about governance, we talk about ESG. We don't have ESG words 30 years ago. But we are talking about ESG, DSG now, SDG now. So when we have AC, the air condition. Previously, all air conditions produce CFC that thinning the ozone layer. So how we evolve, how the innovation. So now we have smart inverter, we go for green energy. So how this innovation somehow or other make our life better. But somehow other from the point of view of business, so as a businessman, who pressure them to be innovative? It's actually the customer. So the customer need to have a very knowledgeable and awareness, so they will pressure the business, so the business will do the innovation, they will do the R&D, so they will innovate something, so which is at the end of the day, saving the environment, for example. So that's how the cycles and the loop could be. So we need to actually both short-term and long-term indicators. So short-term, perhaps we can have a look at the efficiency, cost saving are still account, but in the long-term, institutional trust. Do you trust your government, for example? So that's a long term. Do you have the ethical culture in your organization, in the public sector? Do you have it? How about the environment impact? How about the social inclusion? Are there still be inequality among all the citizens? So the sustainability outcome as well. Okay, so in Malaysia, so we have this one apps, My Digital, MY stands for Malaysia. So there's one apps. So that apps is actually like the gate for all other apps of government apps. So perhaps you have 10 government apps, so we can go through that one apps, My Digital, so you just have to remember one password. So just go through my app, so go through My Digital, so you can access to the whole of other government apps. So that's make somehow either easy, because if not, we have to remember 10 password of 10 apps. So just one app to have the access. So that's time of innovation. So we have like national energy roadmap as well. So we cannot measure it within 1 year, 2 months. So like a roadmap, so like 5 years to come, 10 years to come. So given the aspiration of government as well. So we will not work in silos. All the ministries have to work together in order to uphold the government aspirations. At the same time, innovation should not remain static. It must be continuously renewed and updated. So I'm not so sure now. Our air conditioner is like inverter green. I'm not so sure what will be in the 2-3 years to come. So our smartphone, I'm not so sure. Later on, perhaps we just think about it and we can send message. No, I don't know. So what years to come? So depends on the customer demand, perhaps. So the innovations that can be produced by the business. So in my view, the impact of innovation should not be just measuring by asking how fast will this work, because something fast doesn't mean it's good, and something quite taken sometimes it doesn't mean it doesn't good. So how fast, instead of only just how fast, how responsibly does it grow, adapt and create long-term value for the society. Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Dr. Noor Hidayah, for the insights as well as the lovely compliments. So I think we can agree when we are talking about the measurement of innovation, the impact, both short-term and long-term has to be evaluated, right? And it should be on outcomes such as institutional trust, and also sustainability plays a key part in it. Now, I would like to bring a different perspective here. Ustaz Taslima, right? You come from a regulatory background. So from your perspective, what does meaningful impact look like? And how can we hold innovations to that same standard? What do you think?
Assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much, Sikra College, for the opportunity. First of all, what I would like to say from a regulatory perspective, coming from safety and quality, the very first thing I always tell everybody is that step back and understand that we have a problem. Unless and until we do not understand that there is a problem, we'll never be able to correct it. So that's, something that I always say. And as a regulatory person, I think we ask a lot of questions. We ask the why, what, and all that. Also, we ask the who question at the end, like who is responsible. We don't bring the who is responsible to the front because it does bring in a fear factor. We don't tend to speak up when we ask the question who. So in this, for what you have posed me, I think the first thing is that we need to understand, we need to ask some question. Does it improve quality? Does this innovation improve quality? Does it improve safety? Does it improve access, efficiency, and also sustainability? Does it reduce harm? Does it improve reliability and consistency? These are all questions that we need to ask when we talk about, meaningful impact and how we should actually hold innovation to standards. And in health, I would like to say that innovation actually can save lives. But if we don't govern it, if we don't govern or if we don't address accountability in health, it will cause death. It will cause mortality, morbidity. It will also erode the trust that the public has in us. So just, when I was researching for this particular panel discussion, I wanted to know what do we mean by meaningful impact is. So defining meaningful impact, it says that it is the deliberate alignment of innovation with social equity, environmental regeneration, and public trust. So basically, we are talking about something beyond do no harm. We are talking about something that innovation must actively demonstrate net positive contribution to society and beyond. We are also not talking about, the regulation no longer look into the lens of market penetration. We are not just looking into the lens of what would be the economic benefit of it, or whether we have the technical capability or capacity. So as a regulator, we should be looking in beyond that and holding innovation to a standard where it actually has meaningful impact. It's just not another piece of tool, but has meaningful impact as well. And as regulators, we are very passive. Especially in the Maldives, we are very, very passive. And we should actually demand verifiable, structurable evidence that now we see in the global sphere that countries are trying to operationalize standards, look into standard that what is the standard that this particular innovation should have. And going back to health, when we talk about, regulating or standards, we are talking about not just written guidelines or standard. We are looking into clinical outcomes, safety, in terms of avoiding new harm. We are also talking about equitable access. In a country like ours, is it equitable? The access is equitable because we have a lot of things centralized, but we do have one third or half of our population living in islands. So is it there? We're not just talking about, lowering the cost, but also, or even speeding the care, but rather looking into, is the outcome better? And another thing is like what, the other panelists have said as well. As regulators, we should be holding innovators for non-negotiable standards. We shouldn't be negotiating, especially in health, we shouldn't be negotiating on anything that undermines the clinical outcome. So we have to talk about the clinical validity, the safety, health equity, the system resilience as well whenever we talk about innovation or whenever we want the standards to be in place. In addition to that, on one side is the standard, but are we also tracking the real-time adverse events? When we bring something in place, what are the adverse events? Is it documented? Is there anything that, has it been recalled anywhere? We talk about a lot of tools, a lot of innovation, but did any country recall it? And basically, usually, majority of the time, what we do is that we do, data set testing, but not going into the ground level and looking into it. In addition to that, when we talk about meaningful impact or, looking into the standards, it's again very important that we not only adhere to international standards, but also look into the global context. Not only into the global context, but also looking into the local context. How reliable or how worthy it is in the local context. It is there. But in UN report, what they have said is that that these things are not actually taken into consideration when innovations come in. So for us, it's not just the UN SDG, but also our national development goals as well. Another thing that we need to understand when we talk about standards for meaningful impact, we already know there is, a lot of bias. So we need to bring in the balance so there is no bias, and then, it will have, the standards will not bring in further discrimination or bias when it is applicable at the ground level. But I wanted to reiterate on going beyond, output. She also mentioned that it's not the number of tools, but it is, how did this tool improve access to care? How did this improve, reduce the clinical errors? Did it really reduce the carbon footprint, which we always talk about when we talk about environment? So it's not the number, but the outcome as well. When we move forward, how do we move forward as regulators? I think it's very important that we embed mandatory continuous impact assessments and transparent reporting, and also give license to approval, license to these pathways. And innovators should be held accountable that they should go through all these rigorous measurements or measures before they can actually implement it at the society level, so that it doesn't have a negative impact on it. Again, I want to reiterate about the speed, but she was saying that it's not actually the speed, and for a really meaningful impact, especially when it comes to health, we are talking about better outcomes and doing no harm, no new harm, and also equitable access. That's the main standards that we have to apply when we talk about innovations.
Yeah, so thank you, Ustaz Taslima. I think it is very comprehensive. Now, if I were to do something like a qualitative research, I'm pretty sure I can see some themes that are already emerging here, right? Things like organization trust, resilience, long-term strategy, all are very important when we talk about measuring the impact of innovation. So I think we have reached a consensus here that innovation is important, but it is quite hard to measure. Now this makes the next question even more important, which is how can we govern innovation in a responsible way and at what speed? Now, before I go to the panel, I would like to come to the audience first. From a quick show of hands, can you tell me how many of you have used a new technology or even an innovation at work or even in your daily life in the past year, and you weren't really sure that it was properly regulated or governed? Just from a quick show of hands, is there anyone? I can see many hands being raised. So that is exactly what we are trying to address here, okay? So in this round, we are going to be looking at the rules, the systems, and the people who decide how innovation actually moves forward. Now, Dr. Noor Hidayah, I'm going to come to you first here. Can you tell me very briefly, what role does good governance play in fostering innovation in an organization? Now, good governance is something we always talk about when we're talking about the success of an organization, right? But does it have a role in fostering innovation within the organizations as well?
All right, thank you. Okay, talking about that, actually good governance, my research is on good governance. Good governance covers lots of things. We have corporate integrity, we have leadership, we have human resource as well. So I can see, I think like yesterday, yes, human resource. Yes, that is like good governance. So at the end of the day, what is the outcome? So for the public sector, we would like to see how the accountability. So because the government is accountable to the public. For the business, so profit. But again, we are moving away from profit. So we are going for sustainability. So yes, having these today innovations, so they are quite fast, very fast innovations. So we have digitalizations, we have AI, we have all these data analytics. So nowadays, I think like we can make one paper, like you say all the tips, within 5 minutes, one paper. Yeah. But AI 100%.
Something we can discuss later, right?
So, yes, yes, for the innovations. So this really creates opportunity. But at the same time, you must remember it does also create risk. So how about the data privacy? So like we are giving all our data for like the government to analyze, right, for Malaysia. So we have this PADU. So PADU is actually a central database hub for the government. Because Malaysians, so we have lots of subsidies. So if like the oil price is like 4 ringgit, so we have a subsidy, so we have to pay only 2 ringgit. So the other 2 ringgits will be subsidized by the government. I'm not so sure here in Maldives, so do you have that? You do have, but there's a cap, so like 200 litre per month. So they will be reset next month. However, we are moving forward, so there's like low income people, middle income, and also the higher income. So the government want to do what's the next step because of these geopolitical things. So the higher income, they will cut off the subsidy. So based on this data, how are they going to detect? So that's why they have to have a very concrete system. So and then the people must trust the system. So all the good governance, governing, who will be monitor, who will be approving, who will be signing off this and that. So is it the same person? If it's the same person, there will be a red flag. So there must be like segregation of duties of the system. So there's no scammers if people want to hack out. Because like if people hack that system, the whole nation's data will be exposed. So good governance is crucial to minimize the risk. So that's why somehow or other, so we must have all this proper structure of accountability. Because yes, at the end of the day, the government accountable to the public, so have a proper accountability structure. So at the same time, they should conduct also ethical integrity and also risk assessment before any implementation. So you cannot just like, okay, I have this idea, okay, come, let's do it. We are not so developed to do that, and we are not so like we don't have a detector leadership. Like certain country, then you can do no. So we must have proper, that's why coming into the innovation, we have to do the proper process of R&D, we have to verify all that, then we can come out with the system. But coming out with the system, it's easy actually compared to maintaining the system. That's another thing altogether. So like, okay, for example, any innovation. For example, I have a solar panel at my home. So in order to maintain, I have a solar panel, so I can buy. It's easy. How to maintain it? That's another cost that need to be. So that's why innovation, the good governance, how to govern it. So based on that, there must be a proper structure. So every organization, despite public or private, they need to have proper structure and also transparency, stakeholder engagement, because you don't want to be, you will not work in silos, so that's why you need to have this stakeholders engagement. So from, I'm not sure if in Bawah outbound kind of thing like that, so need to be integrated together. And also the internal control, so that's why the segregation of duties coming in. So like, who will approve, who will monitor, who will evaluate. So not the same person, different person, but different person, are they related or like where can I say like the Kaabah door, it's not just one person holding the key. So that's kind of a bit internal control. So they have like few people holding the keys for that. So in Malaysia, so we have another thing that somehow or other, it can motivate. So somehow or other it's kind of the compliance. Compliance can be a motivator to motivate innovation. So for example, we have this corporate integrity under Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2009. This corporate integrity meaning that if let's say one person in that particular company being caught having a corruption, doing bribery, so the whole company will be liable. So that is corporate integrity. So this is actually making rooms for innovations, making rooms for good governance. So how? We have corporate integrity. So being one of the team in the consultant giving advice for the company, so you must have corporate integrity. So having this corporate integrity, showing to the people, showing to the government, if there's one person being caught in your company doing corruption, you can safeguard yourself because you are doing everything that you do. You are doing the proper training, you are doing proper whistleblowing act, so you can safeguard yourself. So that is like actually any like a new enforcement and any new laws can be also a motivating factor for innovation as well. So organization must have adequate procedures, so strong internal controls and also ethical leaderships, because yes, good governance, everything is at top, thrown at the top. So if let's say one of the employee come to the director, Mr. Director, I want to do this, but then the director, oh cannot, because you don't have cost, we need to cut all the budget, we don't have fund for this. So it will kill the innovation spirit. So somehow or other you need to have the balance of this good governance. So they must actively govern also their innovation processes and have this partnership, the technology use, the procurement, decision making, also all this need to prevent any misconduct. Again, because I said, having innovation or one system is not as difficult as maintaining them. Maintaining them is, yeah, you can give birth to a child, but in order to maintain that child until like she's being like a very good soleh, anak soleh and soleha is quite challenging. So that's the idea of it. So the good governance required not only rules and policies, also integrity-based culture as well. So being part of organization, innovation must create positive, ethical and sustainability impact. So again, we are going to sustainable because you are not just going to live like for 3 years. We are like, what will we leave for the next generation? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Noor Hidayah. I think you have made it very clear why good governance is so important and some of the good governance practices that we can follow. Now, again, I would like to ask the audience something before I move to the panelists. Does everyone here believe that currently innovation is moving faster than regulation? Is it a big issue that we have? Yeah, can you raise your hands if you believe it is true? It is very true, right? Especially with the advent of AI, the regulations are not moving fast enough. So to end this round, I will come to Ustad Taslima. Okay, I think this is a very important question here. When innovation is moving faster than regulation, what do you think are the risks that we have for the society?
I think something we all agree that innovation is moving much faster than, the regulation or the standards. So my question to the audience here is that, do we want our life to be governed by a corporate code rather than the public consensus? So this is what's happening when the innovations are moving much, much faster, and there is no, I would say, regulatory mechanism to slow it down or move as fast as the technology or move as fast as the innovation. We have actually created a democracy. We don't want to go for that democratic deficiency that we actually fought for. So what I'm trying to say here is that when we don't have a institutional guardrail, or when we don't have a institutional regulatory framework, the private entities, they end up creating that ethical boundaries for us. So the risk is privatization of policies, the policies that get enforced to all of us. So when innovation moves forward, they create those policies. So, the question usually by the technocrats is that, why are we not moving as fast as the technology is moving? But what happens when we move so fast? And when there is, huge gap between the technology and the regulation, actually the primary risk is not just lack of rules. Like I mentioned, the primary risk is that they create the boundaries, they create the policies for us, which we have to abide by, and they become the de facto policymakers of the society. And we all know that when innovation moves so fast, it actually creates a vicious cycle where the public trust is lost, something we don't want to do. Especially in healthcare, we really don't want the public to, lose our trust, or the institution to lose their legitimacy. And when the society witnesses this unintended, the harm is not intended, nobody intends harm, but when the society witnesses this, there is, we don't have a institutional response to this, as we don't have the guidelines, we don't have the rules. And then again, back to, the vicious cycle of the public not trusting the organization and not trusting that innovation comes into being. And, in the technology world, what they say is, move fast, break things, redo things. But what happens when we apply to the public infrastructure? What happens when it gets applied to the health sector, to the education sector? Even, talk about the housing sector. What happens when the public lose trust? That is because we don't have a proper, the risk is, I think the ultimate risk is losing public trust that, we rely on the education sector, the health sector, the social sector for our day-to-day life. It's very meaningful for our day-to-day life as well. Another thing that happens, or the risk, is that it creates a dangerous enforcement vacuum. So there are no guardrails. We are subjected to systemic inequities, data breaches, and even discrimination, displacement of workforce. We have been talking about it yesterday in the panels as well. And something we all need to agree is that there needs to be some friction for us to move forward. It is also important, but when we have unvetted systems, or when the innovation is prematurely deployed, there is all sorts of harm that can happen to the individual. Again, back to public confidence at the end of the day, and also people losing not only trust in the whole society, but also the systems, that is the institutions that they should trust. I'm talking about those social institutions, the healthcare institutions, the educational institutions, that people need to have their trust that whatever they are doing it for the best and for the public as well. Nur Huda has actually talked about the accountability, but again, I want to reiterate that it's very important that we need to have that accountability, especially when it comes to clinical side, especially when it comes to health sector. It's very, very important that they are given that space and that environment for the clinical accountability. And unless and until we have a clear legal framework and a defined liability, it becomes really difficult to make them accountable for whatever has happened. In health, we are also talking about digital health delivery like telemedicine, and we know there are inequities when it comes to these kind of things, especially like, yesterday's panel were talking about there is a digital divide. There are people who don't understand digitally what we can do. You go to a hospital now, you go to a health facility, everything, even taking a number, going into see a doctor, everything becomes, slowly is becoming digitized. But are we really up to that? Do we have do we have something to fall back on as well? So when regulatory system comes, there will be mitigation of these risks as well. So basically what we need is a proactive governance system to mitigate this trust, and the regulators to implement conditional licensing, enforce liability, and also liability on unregulated tools. And also there has to be a mechanism to adjust the speed the innovation is going and the speed at which the regulations or the standards are in place. A lot of, when it comes to health, there is a lot of innovations, a lot of new tools, a lot of new methodologies that are coming in, and we are bringing all that in. We are bringing in robotics, we are bringing in everything else, but do we have that particular regulatory infrastructure at the moment to bring that in? And when a complication happens, what are we going to fall back on? That's the question that have to be raised. Having said all that, like we're talking about, do we slow down the innovation or do we go together? So at the end of the day, the risk is not innovation, but I think it's our legacy in regulatory methodology. That's where the risk is. How are we going to regulate? And we need to actually have anticipatory and agile governance. We need to have mechanism for provisional approvals. We need to have mechanism for starting something, the intention of starting something, so that where governments like ours, where we don't have the proper regulatory framework, we also get that opportunity knowing that, okay, somebody's intending to have this innovation or to bring this innovation to the country. So we also have space that we could have our regulations in place. And we also need to mandate that institutions follow the regulation. So when it comes to regulation, we need to champion adaptive regulations, rolling standards that changes with the new or current innovations and all. So it's a two-way thing. We can't just be sitting with our, fix it all standard and then still continue regulating or using those standards to regulate the new innovation. So it's very important as regulators that we also understand that there needs to be collaborative peer review networks. We need to, safeguard the gap between the rapid technology and advancement, and also safeguard the public and public trust. In other words, we need to move forward, but then we need to find a mechanism. How can we move forward with technology going so fast and our regulations lagging behind?
Yeah, I think you have made it very clear. So first thing is we need that trial and error, but there are areas we can't compromise, right? And especially, as you have mentioned, the privatization of public policy, which is a huge concern. We can see it now even physically manifesting. And you have mentioned a very interesting word, agile governance, right? Our organizations have to be agile, not only in their strategies, but the way we govern. Also, rather than being bureaucratic, we have to be more flexible, more adaptable in those practices as well. So now we have talked about the impact, we have talked about governance, but we have to address the most important issue here, which is how can we make innovation safe to make sure that it reaches everyone? Now, Dr. Abdullah Rashid, you have a history of leading institutions successfully, right? So in your opinion, How can we keep innovation safe and ethical when the rules have not yet caught up, when there are so many risks?
Thank you. All right. Yeah, when there is no rules for ethical dimensions, how can we ensure that innovation is safe? One thing we can do is ethical dimension should be embedded as a part of the innovation process, meaning that when the process goes, they should go within the ethical framework. There should be standards in ethical parts. Like quality, is there any production or any service if that does not meet with standard will be rejected. Similarly, we can have ethics as a part of the process. When product is designed, when service is provided, that should be embedded. It should not be separate. There shouldn't be not necessarily somebody as an inspector, whether inside or outside, come and check. When the system is built in such a way that goes with ethics. Now, I think it's a common term, environmental impact assessment, right? But have we heard about societal or social impact assessment? I think not that common. What we need to do is, I hope that sooner or later, people will talk about any new project, any new program, anything new that should go through social impact assessment. Meaning that we have to check, because of this change, what happens to the culture, people, values. So if that goes through this way, then I think the problem will be is solved. As you mentioned, I think most of the South Asian countries, I can say, still you can see a lot of bureaucratic assessment. Max Weber's bureaucratic assessment, F.W. Taylor, scientific management. We love to have SOPs.
Yes.
Our policies are so rigid. That's far making, I think, stainless steel, iron or something stronger than that. If that's the case, then there will be no room for innovation. So as you mentioned, the flexibility and it should be dynamic.
Exactly.
Yeah, it should be dynamic, then it will be. So to conclude this point, as I said, when it is embedded, the process is embedded with ethics. At the same time, I want to highlight one more point. There are some innovations without considering the ethical part. We have already witnessed that some are very harmful, although it has some advantage. Something very familiar to all of us, social media. Social media, although it has advantage, it has a lot of disadvantage. Maybe one of the disadvantages will be that is stealing our time, people's privacy, human rights, lot of productive time. So much things are there. And other innovations include, I think, because of the advanced technology, a lot of greenhouse gases, isn't it? So many things are there. When we think about innovation, we think only innovation, not the consideration of the consequences. Therefore, although regulations is not there, if we consider these things, I think the problem will be solved to a certain extent. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Abdul Rashid. I think you have highlighted a very important point here, especially when we talk about good governance, even in the framework itself. Ethics should be non-negotiable, right? We should not only strive to be legal, we also have to be ethical. And you have mentioned the social impact. I think Dr. Noor Hidayah also have mentioned the ESG framework, right? Environment, social, and governance framework, which we should all follow. And I think the main takeaway from this panel is we have to be agile, because we are operating in a dynamic environment now, not in a static environment, right? We are talking about bureaucracy a lot. Actually, bureaucracy was there to keep things stable, but it's a very old concept, but I don't know if you guys agree with what I'm saying. So to close the round, I'll talk about something that is very important, which is inclusivity, okay? So how do we, Dr. Noor Hidayah, I'm going to be coming to you for the final round. How do we make sure that we include everyone in the innovation, and not just the privileged, not just the people who have the resources and the connections? I guess the most important question here is, how can we build and foster a culture of innovation in our society?
Thank you again. All right. So, yes, innovation should not widen the inequality, because if like innovation only benefits who have resources, who only benefit who have the technologies, who have educations, who have institutional supports, so that will make the gap bigger. So, to make it more inclusive, so I just think that we should need to understand, we as a whole, so perhaps the government, the business, because talking about like social like economic impact somehow or other, the government in Malaysia, the government is doing a very good job in giving helps to those in need. However, some people, not everyone, this is based from my projects with my friends, some people, when the government give helps, they are a bit complacent. So there's no innovation. They want to stay at that particular low income because they are expecting government to help them. So why they want to go out to become at higher income? If not, they will not get any contributions or any assistance from the government. So somehow the mentality of the people need to be changed as well. So yeah, okay, we are the emerging countries, so somehow yes, we need to improve on that as well. So to make this innovative, inclusive, so we have to understand different groups. So who will left behind, who like the rurals, the lower income group, women, youth, older persons. So we have doctor, like you said about Mariam case yesterday. So does the government take into that, include all this? They are innovating something, they are come up with one certain system. But do they include everyone? So that's something for whoever included in that particular system, that should be to ponder upon. So like talking back about my digital, Malaysian digital previously. So it's not just about business, the big business, not just about large corporations. We are also ensuring the small businesses also be not left behind. So we have the micro, small, medium enterprises as well. So we have small entrepreneurs, because actually, in Malaysia, so those are the corporations or the organizations that contribute to the most of our GDP. Not the large and big corporation, not the one that is listed in the public listed. So those MSME are the one that contributed to the GDP of the country. So they need to be inclusive as well. So innovation should also empower all these small players. So access needs to be treated as a governance issue, again on governance. So institutions should ask whether the people have the infrastructure, afford digital literacy. Some people, perhaps they don't want to learn, they don't want to be literate because it's okay, my children can do that for me. There are some people like that. So perhaps the language support, so that I think there's no problem in Maldives, but in Malaysia perhaps they do. Most of us perhaps don't really, not most of us, some of us just know the Malay language, they do not know the English. So I think like in Maldives, you are like your mother tongue language and also English, that is like, okay, so that thing that need to be included as well. So you have the both bi-language, and also the trust. Again, we're coming about the trust. So we have lots of innovation, we have lots of system. If no one trusts it, no one will use it. That's another thing. Okay, so and the digital service may look successful on paper, just on paper. So if certain communities cannot access it, cannot use it, and actually the innovation is not inclusive. All right, so from my perspective, the innovation should always be linked to accountability, because accountability, there you touch everyone in the country, everyone in the world, supposedly. So we must continue with us. Who should be included? Who is excluded? Who carries the risk? And who receives the benefit? The benefit, is it certain person, certain people, or lots of groups? Perhaps some certain minority is excluded. Why? Or we need to include it all. So again, inclusive innovation is not about introducing just new technology or new system, but it's ensuring the innovation improve the lives, protect vulnerable people, and contributes to a fairer and sustainable society. Again, sustainability.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Noor Hidayah. I believe the story of Mariam, as mentioned by Dr. Shafiqa, has been very inspirational for all of us, right? We have to make sure that we include people like Mariam in this innovation as well. And you have highlighted very important points. This includes providing infrastructure, digital literacy, and I guess the key word is public trust, right? The public needs to trust us. So audience, I hope you're all not sleeping, okay? We have come to the end of the discussion. Now I would like to open the floor for the audience. If you have any questions to our panel members, you are welcome to ask. And I urge to ask the questions because we have experts in this specific field. Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum. I actually have two questions and I would like to ask Dr. Abdullah Rashid. So my first question is, what should I do as an individual, or what habit should I adapt in my daily life to make myself as an ethical yet innovative person? And my second question is, we have got an insightful knowledge of innovation and its importance, but I think it's a fact that not all the innovations may work out. So when do you know, or how do you know when to kill an innovation, or what's the rule for deciding that a particular innovation is not worth the time and effort? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Your first question, how can you make your daily life ethical and innovative? First thing I can say, we as Muslims, we have principles. And then we have our law. We have our customs. When we consider any innovation, creativity and innovation, we should understand that should pass through these dimensions. We have to ask ourselves, is this ethical? Okay, you may think about some new technology which may be commercially benefit, but the question is it ethical? Is it more harmful than the benefit? Therefore, when we think about these principles, as I mentioned, the Islamic principles, Maldivian constitution, and our customs, and if all these things pass it, most probably your innovation, we can say it is ethical. Your second question, could you please ask again?
So my second question is, how do you know when to kill an innovation, or what's the rule for deciding that a particular innovation is not worth the time and effort?
Okay, when to kill, how to kill innovation. You know, many of us sometimes very good ideas comes to our mind, but mostly we have a psychological problem. I can say we have fear. There is an English saying also which goes, the greatest mistake is being afraid of making a mistake. Anyone who is not ready and who has no courage to make mistake will not do anything innovative. They will be in their comfort level. They will ensure that they don't make any mistakes. Yes, the one who never does anything will not make any mistake. Therefore, you should not be afraid of making a mistake. And also, your innovative ideas creative ideas and your innovation, normally the first thing we need to do is we should make a prototype one. And if you are prototype one, whether it is small or big, just check yourself and then some others with you. After testing all those things, if you are sure that is ethical, that is working, it's time to commercialize it or make others know it. Otherwise, while it is in a baby, people come and criticize, and you also will feel that, oh, this is something I should stop. So these are my suggestions. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, sir.
That's a very good question. Is there anyone else who wants to ask a question from the audience? Okay, we have a couple of hands raised. That's very good to see.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Shashi, and I just want to add a bit on what we were discussing, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
My background is from early childhood, and I believe that when we are kids, we are very creative. We do not have any boundaries, but somewhere along the line, we lose that creativity. So as a nation, we need to build that up, and just a food for thought only. I just wanted to pass on that message. Thank you.
That's a very good message to pass on. Thank you. And we have one more question we can take.
It's not a question, actually. I would like to add to what Dr. Abdullah has said regarding the prototype. We often see, especially in the education sector, we often see that we embrace whatever, fascinating technology that comes. And one such example is distributing tablets to all the students. So here we see a situation where the regulatory bodies failed to do the prototype, actually, to take a sample and test, but rather we wholeheartedly embraced it, and we sent off the tablets to all the students. But then the big question is, when the regulatory bodies fail, who can take the lead to do a research and help the nation? I mean, is it the higher education institutions, or just a question to the panel? Thank you.
Panel members, anyone?
For me, I would say that instead of going to the negative of when the regulatory bodies fail, I think when we build system, we need to have everything in place. I would say that in the Maldives, when something bad happens, we run. Historically, we've been doing that. But we are not prepared for, what could be the consequences. I mean, in the panel, we were talking about that when we do something, why not we look into the consequences? So it is, there's nobody else to take it forward, I would say, when something fails, especially when it is regulators who are supposed to be looking into that. So regulation shouldn't be coming as an afterthought, but whenever something is built, whether it's a process, whether it's an SOP, or whether it is just a mere standard, we need to inbuild safety, quality within that, so that, we do lesser harm, if at all, and we are more guarded.
Sorry for that. Let me add something. I think in Maldives, if we really want to go to the next step in the development, we need to have the habit of creating knowledge, doing the research. Then only when it comes tablet or something else, before we do something, let's research about it, then let's do that. There is a research about what's the difference between developing country and developed country. One final finding is developed countries, they spend time on creating knowledge and utilizing the knowledge for what they do. But we don't do that. We just do that, and we solve the problem. Our today's solution become tomorrow's problem. So we are chasing the solutions and problems. Then final thought, just takeaways from our panel. We request you all as an individual, let's try to think creatively and do something innovatively, whatever you do, whether as a chef or somebody else, whatever. Why I take the example of chef, I like cooking, and sometimes I get the opportunity, and always I change it. So my recipe is secret, and it is keep on changing. Sometimes my wife asks, hey, you add this, right? Then I ask, just taste it and tell me how it is. So we should be innovative and creative. Thank you.
Yeah. So the creation of and sharing knowledge, exactly what we are doing here as well, is the only way to move forward. I know we are almost out of time, and most of us are looking forward for our lunch break. But just to very quickly wrap up, I would like to give the opportunity to the other two panel members to share their final thoughts. What would be the final message that you want this audience to take away from the discussion today? So, Dr. Noor Hidayah, I would start from you.
Okay, so my key, not my key, just like some message. So innovations must be guided by governance, integrity, and also accountability. So this integrity and accountability, yes, it should be nurtured from child. So that's how we develop, how we think, how we decide, and how we act. So if let's say few tests, our tests you in the future, so you have a strong foundations of integrity. So again, it is your jihad. It is our jihad as well to integrate all this integrity in our children. So however, we need to balance the integrity and how we implement it, because like in UITM, every lecturers must have their KPI must have innovation. So is the innovation is doing from the heart and soul, or is actually just I want to do this for my KPI, or just ticking the box. Okay, this is my KPI for this year. So something to have balance between, yes, you really want to do the innovation, and also perhaps some governance, and also the KPI, because KPI also has crucial as well. So when the governance is balanced, it will not kill innovation, inshallah. So again, it will be meaningful for the people, for the environment, for the society, and also for the future environment. So again, this is our jihad. So it will, perhaps it's not benefit us now, but we will see it later in the future, perhaps 2-3 years to come, or perhaps in the later generations. Thank you.
Ustazah Taslima.
For the last thing, what I would like to say is that it's a shared responsibility that we have. Where there is no regulation, even yesterday I think the mayor did talk about, and just now we mentioned that we have the Islamic principle, but beyond that we have a ethical responsibility as well. Where there is no regulation, I think ethics should kick in. Even if there is a regulation, ethics should kick in, and it is a shared responsibility between the regulator as well as the inventor, innovator, or the institution. That responsibility should be shared. And for all those who doesn't like the regulators, I know I don't get liked by the people who really wanted to have the services in place. Just don't consider us as enemies.
Exactly.
We are not your enemies. We are there to help you as well. Don't consider us as brakes who are trying to stop it, but consider as the guardrail who are trying to protect the vulnerable. So when we say protecting the vulnerable, we are not talking about dictating the protection, but we are also talking about, ensure that the vulnerable are there to participate. We co-design whatever we are designing with the vulnerable. Equity should be considered. And lastly, I want to say that in health, trust is not a luxury, it's a treatment. It's a treatment, and as regulators and health leaders, we will be asking certain questions. We will be asking the innovators to prove that not just it works, but it works safely and fairly for the most vulnerable and equally for everyone. Thank you.
Dr. Abdullah Rashid.
Okay, just to conclude, one of the Japanese management best practice I would like to share. I'm sure you know Toyota company. Toyota is very famous for its qualities. How Toyota becomes so famous? They have a concept called Kaizen. Kai means change. Zen means better. So change for better. Therefore, in Toyota company, every employee has a responsibility to his or her job, plus identifying what are the areas to be improved, and then how to improve. Then continuously they are improving. The concept of Kaizen is very famous in Japan, and now it's very famous in other countries as well. Therefore, if we assign this responsibility to everyone, find out the areas, what are the areas to be improved and how to improve. But we have the habit of identifying and criticizing without solution. We are saying that is wrong, this is wrong, he is doing wrong, she is doing wrong, and I'm correct. But rather than it's wrong, come with the solution and propose it. And then management should open it to everyone, and inclusivity we have already discussed. If everybody included, then only innovation will come, quality will come. There are proven concepts like total quality management, where everybody in any organization and every process should be involved. So that's inclusivity. Kaizen, that's also inclusivity. And I hope you get some takeaways. Please try to change things, do things, at least something differently, and see how it works. People proudly say that I have 20 years experience. But if 20 years, if you are doing same thing in same way, how could you claim that you have 20 years? No, that's 1 year. Thank you.
We'll wait until the prayer ends. Okay, so I think that is a very good end to our conversation here. So we had a very good discussion, and there were many very nice takeaways that our audience can take. So I believe there is one shared message that we want to send, that is, innovation without governance is a huge risk, but governance without inclusion is also incomplete. So please join me in thanking the three panelists for their generous and honest conversation. Everyone, please give them a round of applause. And thank you, the audience, for staying with us. ICTHM 2026 continues. I'm pretty sure you are all looking forward for your lunch break. Thank you all.
Thank you to all our panelists for that enriching and forward-looking discussion. Your perspectives on governance and accountability in innovation are truly valuable to all of us here. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for lunch. Please enjoy this opportunity to network and reflect on the rich discussions of the past 2 days. We will reconvene at 1:30 p.m. for the closing ceremony of the conference. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Komme mahaku Bappa trust kure choose kollam. Ebba faharu vara bearing spend kollam. Ekamaku nukuram.
Därför engeta etse foderni vagotu degen.
So I gave time for my dream. Thank you. I want that bike. Ahanna furatama felu iro T only a bike. Akam miharo T mage first dream. And I built you saving 1 rupiah at a time.